the Detroit Pistons passed up on 2 first-round picks for Bojan last year. That comes from, I think it was Michael Scotto on Hoopshype. And I know how some people feel about him, and I saw one person on Twitter say he's not legit, he doesn't have any sources, whatever. I don't care, but that's what we're talking about. I get it. If there's 2 first-round picks on the table, you probably should have taken it. But also, on the other hand, this team is already so young, man. I think 6 or maybe even 8 of their players have less than 4 or less years on this team, and they're playing minutes for the Pistons. Like, you're not going to win with such a young team. It just does not happen. You got to have some veterans on the roster. So I understand why Troy kept Bojan. He is a guy that can help them, eventually win whenever that may be. I don't know how many games we get to. We might break. I'm kind of anxious. I'm kind of actually said if we break the Clippers record, I mean, at least we broke a record, But anyways, 2 first-round picks were supposedly on the table for Bojan. How do you feel about that? Would you have traded him for 2 first, or would you have kept him?
Before I answer that, I do want to give a shout out to Michael Scotto. Shout out to him. He actually listens to the podcast, so that's really cool. And if I had to guess, because if you read his piece from Hoopshype, he said a contender offered 2 first-round picks for Bojan. If I had to bet money, I think it was the Dallas Mavericks. I really do. Because we talked about the rumors that the Mavericks wanted to throw Tim Hardaway Jr. in there. The Mavericks had a 2025 and I believe a 2027 first-round pick, but they eventually used one of those first-round picks for Kyrie. So that's probably, if I had to guess, that was probably the team that offered the 2 first-round picks for Bojan. To answer your question, would I take that trade? I don't know. I really don't, because I don't know what the other trade offers were. There could have been a better trade offer out there for maybe the Lakers. I doubt they offered it, but maybe they offered a Hachimura, in a first. That would be a good trade, but I doubt they would do that. But I don't really know what all the trades offers are out there. But if it's a contender, it's going to be draft picks, maybe 2, 3, 4 years down the line, and who knows if Troy Weaver's even the GM that long. You don't know. Will he get extended again? I know, he just got an extension from Tom Gores, I believe last year, but I don't know. Do you really want to, take a gamble on a contender's draft picks that are probably 20, maybe 30 in the first round? I don't know. To your point, I know last week you said that sometimes we hold on to players longer than we should. I do agree with you on that aspect, but I really don't know how good those first round picks were. If they were late first round picks, then yeah, no, I'm good. If it was Dallas or the Lakers, it's 2027 or 2028, and we're in 2023. I gotta wait 5 years for a first round pick, really?
I did say that, and I mean, I look at teams like the Magic and the Oklahoma City Thunder, and they're both 2 really young teams, and I just don't know. And it doesn't seem like they have a ton of veterans playing major minutes for them. They somehow just made it work out. So I don't know if I don't want to blame the players. That's the thing. I'm kind of avoiding that topic as a fan of this team. Is it the players and they just haven't figured out, or are they just not as good? Do they look better because the Pistons are so bad? Is that what this is? Or is it, this team just doesn't have enough veterans where they can learn from or they can rely on? When things get tough, you need a bucket. You don't have another shot maker. You don't have another guy that can go out there and get you a bucket. You don't have a guy that can steady the pace so you're not turning the ball over 21 times. I don't know what it is. So I understand why you keep Bojan, but in the other hand, damn, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you should have traded him while his name was hot, because 2 first-round picks, those could be packaged to bring, a slightly younger veteran in that has some experience that could help this team win. I don't know. It's just it's not just one fix for the Pistons, and I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. So I'm a little disappointed they turned down to trade Bojan for 2 first-round picks, but I'm also still in the understanding of you need veterans to win, and that's what this team desperately needs. They don't need more first-round picks because this team is already so young, and it's just not working.
Yeah, like I said, I think the Pistons going into this season, they did not expect to start the first 20 games with only 2 victories. Yeah. I think if you had to ask them that, they'd be like, no, we didn't expect that. We didn't expect our vets that we traded for this summer to be injured. Like Joe Harris played a little bit, but in the minutes that he did play, he wasn't really hitting 3-point shots at the rate that everyone was selling us on, right?
Yeah.
Excuse me. And the Monte Morris thing, I know we talked about it last week, like January maybe, at the earliest, February at the latest. Like he could not play and the trading deadline could go by. Like think about that. Like that's kind of crazy. And then a guy that led your team in scoring just played his first game in December. Like the season's almost a quarter of the way over. And it's really hard to like kind of pick like who's to blame right now for like this mess. But I don't know, man. It's hard when you hear these rumors that they turned it down last year. But one thing I will say is like, if we don't move them this year and they cut him because they want to save, they want to have cap flexibility, as they always tell us in free agency. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if I can go into another offseason trying to sell hope. And then I know they're probably just going to use their cap space on trades and not sign a single soul. But I know someone just asked us, like, who are the Pistons going to sign in free agency? I'm like, dude, I don't know. This front office has never shown interest in signing free agents. This front office has shown you more than once they are willing to trade for a player rather than try to make bids in free agency. I mean, if you look, the last big name free agent they actually spent a little bit of money on was like Mason Plumlee or Kelly Olynyk. Like Kelly Olynyk was like $13 million and people are losing their shit. Like that was like the last like big name free agent that Detroit got. And like there's this, I know I'm rambling, there's like this narrative like, oh, who would want to come to Detroit anyways? No one wants to come to Detroit.
Yeah.
Look at Houston just did. A lot of people thought they overpaid for Van Vliet and Dylan Brooks, and they look great, man.
Yeah, they look like a playoff team.
They are a playoff team right now. Like, you got to, spend a little bit when you're rebuilding. Like, I'm not saying, like, go into, like, the Charlie V or Ben Gordon type of stuff, but, like, I'm not saying go get a star. Like, go get those mid-tier players. Like, go get those Grant Williams, those Max Strus, those Kelly Oubre's. Like, you're telling me none of those guys could have made a difference on this team right now? Like, me and you were like, maybe we can go get Kelly Oubre. Maybe you can get him for cheap. And before his injury that he had, he's balling right now with Philly.
Yeah, he looked
good. And, like, off the bat, like, that's a player, like, that's a small forward that I was like, go get him. He can shoot threes. He can play a little bit of defense. He can pass. Like, made too much sense, I guess.
And he's really cheap. I think he signed for the he signed, I think he might be making like $2 million this year. That's an incredible bargain for a Kelly Oubre. I think the other part that's kind of frustrating is because if they did trade Bojan for 2 first-round picks, they probably still trade for Joe Harris. They probably make no moves in free agency. I mean, it seems like you have to keep the veterans on this team because Troy Weaver is like allergic to adding some of these guys, and it's so weird because he'll trade for a guy knowing that we already have cap space, and then he'll offload them and try to figure something out to get more cap space. And you're like, well, you already had it. You know what I'm saying? You already had the money to go play with, and you did absolutely nothing for it. You made, like you were saying, he made it easy for the Brooklyn Nets to re-sign Cam Johnson by taking on Jameer. It's like, why are we doing other teams favors? And why are you not playing the game? I just don't get it. I don't want to turn this into like I don't have any faith in Troy Weaver, but I feel like that's how I'm starting to sound because again, just if you keep him through this trade deadline and this team shows no improvement, what was it for? You know, what was the point of keeping him when you had 2 first-round picks on the table? Even though I've been going back and forth on it. But, man, it's just there's something about it. I just don't understand. Because now if this team looked like it was going to win with Bojan returning, and then it makes sense. Like, yeah, you keep him through the trade deadline and you run it back with him next year and Cade and everybody healthy and see if you can make some noise. But I just don't think it's going to go that way. And now we're going to be stuck with this guy for the rest of the year, and it's going to be fun and exciting, but then he might can't he walk, or he has a partially guaranteed deal, so they might just cut him, like you were saying, to save money, and then we're left without a Bojan and nobody to fill his role. I don't know. It's just crazy to me. The more
I told you last week, I'm like, Patrick Williams will be a Detroit Piston. You can bookmark that.
Like, how young does Troy want this team to be?
Like, I don't want to bash Troy Weaver. I'm not here to do that. I can be critical of him. I do think when you look at teams that have rebuilded, I saw this earlier today. It was like the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I can't remember the other team, but they all started in 2020 and they all had 20 wins, right?
Yep.
And all of those teams right now are playoff teams, right? Like, you can rebuild a team in, maybe it takes you 3-4 years. But I think, to your point, and some fans' points, their frustration is like, okay, we're 4 years in and we're still where we were in 2020. And I understand, like, the COVID season, whatever. I get it. Like, you have Blake on the books. I get it. But we've never used our cap space to take on a contract to get draft capital. Yeah. Like, that's something that I was asking for. I was like, take on bad contracts. Like, OKC, they are merchants for that. They will take on a bad contract for a draft pick. Like, I don't get why we couldn't have done that. Like, I would have taken on a bad contract for a first or some seconds. Like, why not? It just seems like right now this team doesn't really have a plan. And I think the plan is just to stockpile top 5 picks and see if it works. And if it doesn't, trade those top 5 picks for somebody else. It's just like, I don't like that plan personally. If that's the plan, I don't like it. It's no direction to me.
But I don't even know if they're going to trade any of the first round picks. He might just keep them and then hopefully, or whoever just throws a dart at the wall and hopes, like, okay, best player available, maybe he'll turn out to be an all-star. I just don't know.